All right, you'll count me down. Good morning, Nick family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. I appreciate you all being here. And as always, I got a lot to say. Today, we'll close the door on the 2001 season by going over, players really quickly, whether we want them back or not. Then we'll get into free agency. And then I'll talk to you about why, while I like Lonzo Ball, I don't think he's right for this team. So we'll get into that. First, I want to shout out Sim, as always. Just the production, the same. The slides, the logo, all of it, easy to work with. Appreciate you. And I also want to give a shout out to Eru, who I didn't shout out last week when I was naming my NBA panelists. And I want to actually read one of his Twitter messages, because I think is so on point. And of course, here it is. So let me just read this real quick. This is from Die Hard Knicks podcast. If your main worry in this offseason is avoiding players that take away from RJ's development, we hear that a lot, then just do yourself a favor and pick another team or sport. The goal should be to win a championship, not develop one player out of 15. Team over everything, New York forever. That's why I like Ebro. He's straight and to the point. We going into free agency. We hear that a lot. We don't want to bring in this player. It's going to stunt this player's growth. Things that we were talking about last season before we even were a good team, and we're hearing it again. So shout out to you, Ebro. I echo your sentiments. All right. So let's just get into some Knick news. The number one Knick news was that Tibbs was named Coach of the Year, and rightfully so. As you know, he was my pick coming in. I just thought that the Knicks needed that discipline, they needed that accountability, and he came in and he brought that. Right, he brought that to the Knicks, and I think he was just able to look at the team, look at what we had, and was able to just put it together in a way that was successful. And when you think about how we stood pat at the trade deadline, not that they weren't looking, I'm sure they were. I think that he knew how fragile the chemistry was, and he knew that this team wasn't built just on talent or on talent, that this team was built on chemistry and execution and just being tight, those sorts of things, and having the foresight to, if we can bring somebody in that takes us over the top and risk that, fine. But if not, let's just roll with what we had. There were multiple opportunities for the Knicks to upgrade the roster. And I think that was, if you ask me, Tibbs was doing a risk-benefit analysis. He did a phenomenal job. Him, obviously with Randall, but I think Randall thrived partly because of Tibbs, right? So shout out to you, Tibbs. I'm not going to rain on his parade. I'm going to leave it like that, and we'll talk about Tibbs some more in another show. But shout out to you, Tibbs, well deserved. And there were other worthy candidates as well. I just thought that Tibbs took the Knicks from the longest mile, so to speak. So shout out to him again. All right. So now we're going to get into the 2021 Knicks. We're going to close the door basically on this season, but just kind of go through each player very quickly. This is the thing when you do a once a week show, everybody that did it already, right? But it's okay. I'm going to give my takes really quickly on these players and whether or not we should keep them or trade them. That's also keep them or dump them. But, do we also, want to trade them and get something for them if we can, right? Some of them are free agents and we can't. So let's start with Randall. I mean, listen, we've talked about Randall ad nauseum, right, since the playoffs ended. I still want to keep him. Like I said last week, he's still my guy. I still think the Knicks should offer him the extension. he may not be a number one. You know, I don't think many of us thought he was. He may just be a number two. That's fine. If he's a number two, that's fine. We'll take it. So definitely want to keep Randall, see if we could sign him to that extension. And I think we need to bring players in. We'll talk about this more when we get to the free agency part of the show. Bring players in that complement him. And whether that's a number one, whether if for those who don't think he is a number one, or bring in another number two, you know, whatever it is, I do think he needs help. Before I move on, let me just acknowledge the chat. Justin Smith, Lonzo all day, T. Williams, Geometry. I hope I got that right. Cut, Kicks and Knicks, Pudge Nice. Appreciate you, Pudge. Very consistent. Appreciate you. And all the others who are Knicks Worldwide, Kevin Bergen, Stephen Mendez, Geraldine McDiver. Hopefully you'll come on, Geraldine. You know, I'll make it easy for you. Stephen Mendez, Izzy Black. Appreciate all of you. That's my quick take on Randall. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I know you guys have heard this ad nauseum. This is just my take. RJ is definitely a keeper. I would not trade RJ. I know everybody has a price. RJ's price for me would be very, very high. He would, I don't know if I want to say he's untouchable. I don't think anybody is untouchable, but he's somebody that I want to keep. I know a lot of people either don't like him or don't think he has a high upside. I tend to think he does. So I definitely he made a big jump, in my opinion, from his first year to his second year. Statistically, and just in seeing him on the floor, you could tell he was a more confident player. So he's somebody that I would keep. I would not put in trade talks. I'm trying to think if there's anybody I would put him in a trade for. I'm not sure. I'll think more about that. But RJ is a keeper. Bullock, I like Bullock. I like Bullock. I would like to keep him coming off the bench. I'm not sure about him as a starter. I think that you can upgrade that position, actually, and I hope the Knicks do. So I would like to see Bullock as a coming off the bench, but I would like to keep him. He can hit the three. He plays very good defense. He's just not somebody that can create his own shot. He just needs somebody to set him up. And hopefully between Randall, did it this year, and if we get a legitimate point guard, they'll be able to do that. If we bring Rose back, and Rose is in the second unit with Bullock, he'll be able to also get him shots. So I would like to see Bullock back for this team. I'm going through the starters first. Payton, no. And I wasn't that hard on Payton. I thought I was fair, but we need an upgrade at that point guard position. I think, he started off giving us something as the season started, and it just dwindled at the end. It seemed like he fell off a cliff, quite frankly. It wasn't giving us much of anything. So no, I don't want to see Payton back, even in the second unit. But I wish him all the best. I don't think he's as bad a player as people think he is. And I don't think he is a better player as he played down the stretch for the Knicks. For whatever reason, he just declined and it just didn't work out. But I wish him the best. And I think he's going to land on a team and he's going to do better. I think when you see a player not doing well, we tend to think that player is not a good player. It's just that they don't fit the system. Look at Austin Rivers. He wasn't that great for us. Look at what he did with Denver. He's doing well for them, right? So I don't think people say, he's going to be with the Shanghai Sharks. He's not going to be in the NBA. He's an NBA player. He'll find another team and he'll do well. But I would not like to see him back on the Knicks. Noel, I'm going to say dump it to Noel too. I mean, I think we need people that can catch the ball. I mean, offense is at a premium for us. We're not a great offensive team. You can't go into a game already down 2 offensive players at the point guard and center spot, right? So, we couldn't count on him for even consistent lobs, right? You think about when Mitch was playing the 5 position, just the threat of the lob opened up the lane some, right? That center had to make a decision like we did when we were playing Atlanta against Capella. I think with Noel, they didn't really have to pay too much attention to him. So there was a stretch during the season when he played like a demon. And I was like, wow, whoa, this guy is really, really good. And I was thinking that, maybe we should sign him, and let Mitch go. But as the season went on, he just wasn't able to sustain that level of play. And I think there was probably some injuries involved as well. But I think we can let Noel go. I think that's replaceable, what he brings to the team. Now, I would like them to replace it with somebody else who could protect the rim. I think that's important for us. But Noel, I appreciate him and what he did, but I would be okay if he wasn't back. Roles I would like to keep, but this is the thing. I'm wondering, what if the front office is looking at somebody like TJ McConnell? Does Tibbs have final say in I want Rose back? That's it. I don't care if there's somebody else out there. Because, with Rose, you kind of have to manage his health. You have to manage his minutes. If you play him a lot of minutes consecutively, he tends to break down. At least that's what I think. Is the front office okay with that? Or do they want to get somebody who doesn't have that injury history? And if it comes down to that, does Tibbs have final say? So I would like to have Rose back. He's mentally tough. He gives it everything he got, and he can still play. I mean, he may not be as athletic as he was, but he's still quick. I mean, his quickness, in my opinion, is still above average. He could get to his spots. He can drive. He can get to the lane. His playmaking skills has improved from what I've seen previously. He's shooting the ball better. He can shoot the 3. I would like to see him back. I'm just wondering if Tibbs and the front office is on the same page as far as Rose is concerned. But I would definitely like to see him back. Burke, I'm okay either way. Either way. I'm gonna say dump him. Let's see if we can get an upgrade. Yeah. If the money is right, I wouldn't mind bringing him back. But teams are looking for players who can score, including the Knicks. Off the bench, and he can score off the bench, and the Knicks do need that. So if the money is right, I would like to see them bring Burke back. But if not, if he's asking for, they're all going to ask for multi-year contracts, and they deserve it. I don't think you can keep expecting them to sign 1-year contracts, 2-3-year contracts. If he's reasonable, I would like to bring Burke back. But if it's not, I'm okay letting him go. Obi and IQ, Knicks Worldwide said Burks will get paid. Okay. And he very well might. I think Noel will get paid as well. I don't think Bullock would have a problem getting paid either. These are all, free agents. Obi, obviously he's not a dump, but keep him or trade him. I mean, we'll get more into this when we get to the free agency part. The Knicks need to upgrade their roster. In my opinion, they have to find either a number 1, or if they see Randall as a number 1 or number 2, and you have to give to get. And so I would like to keep Obi. I saw some good things from him. I think that he'll be a good player down the line. I think if he could ever get his footwork together, he'll be more than somebody that just running and jumping and getting putbacks and hitting 3s. He has the potential to play in the post. He has to get stronger. He has the potential to do that. And if he could ever get his footwork together, and be able to drive to the basket, he'll be a really, really good player. But this is the thing, family. When you trade a player, it's not necessarily that you don't think they're going to be good. They just don't fit your timeline. Like when the Knicks gave up those draft picks for Carmelo and they turned into, I think, Jamal Murray. It's not that the Knicks didn't think that those draft picks could possibly turn into a good player. It's just that it didn't fit their timeline. They needed a player now, right? Jamal Murray is just now coming to his own. Carmelo is gone, right? So for them, holding on to a draft pick that may or may not become something 5, 6, 7 years down the line is not a consideration or much of a consideration. And so that's kind of how I feel about Obi. I think that he's going to be a good player. The question is, does he fit the Knicks timeline? And we'll get into timeline a little later. And if they can get somebody that can go with Randall now and they have to give up Obi to make that happen, I'm for that. And I'm for that. And I believe he's going to be a good player. But that will be down the line. Hey, Andy. Appreciate you dropping by. And I feel the same thing about IQ. No. I think IQ's, in my opinion, price at this point is higher than Obi, right? So if somebody came calling for IQ, what you offering? And you got to be offering something significant, because I think that, let's just say the Knicks went all in, scorch earth, right? To put together a championship contender team in the offseason, and you were able to hold on to quickly. I think he could contribute on that team. No, he wouldn't be your number 2. He wouldn't be your number 3, but he would be able to contribute on a team, I think, right away, because of his shooting, his ability to handle the ball, his ability to get in the paint with his floater, high off the glass. I saw a little mid-range. So I think he would contribute sooner than later. A number 2 or number 3, no. But he would be able to contribute sooner or later. So I would like to hold on to him. But like I said, everybody has their price. Everybody has their price. And if, quickly stops a trade, I don't know if he's that good right now or going to contribute that much that you would stop a trade for a number 1 because you don't want to give up quickly, right? I don't know if he's at that level yet, but I really like this kid. I really, really like him. And as you know, I was not high on him in the beginning of the season. So I would like to keep him. And if we do trade him, it has to be, in my opinion, for a number 1 or a number 2. Taj, I would like to keep. Taj is one of them guys that if your center and backup center are playing, he doesn't play at all, right? He just sits on the bench. He doesn't play at all. He's a good locker room presence, a good bench presence. But if one of them go down, he could step in and he's solid, right? He could catch the ball. He's in the right spots. So I would like to keep him. But this is the thing. He's going to be a year older. I thought he played very well for us this year. The thing about age, and I'm talking from experience, one day you are right, and the next day you're not. So I'm not, let's see. But I would like to keep him. But at some point, players begin to decline, and sometimes it's not a steady decline. Sometimes it's just a drop from one year to the next. So let's see. But I would like to keep Taj. Mitch, I would like to keep. And this is interesting. I just want to read this because I don't even think I was clear. So if the Knicks pick up his option, he has a player option. If the Knicks pick it up, he'll hit unrestricted agency next season, right? If they decline it, he's a restricted free agent this season, right? So either way, I think it's a tough choice for the Knicks. Do you want him to go to unrestricted free agency next season and risk losing him for nothing? Do you decline it, he becomes a restricted free agent. Teams structure those contracts in such a way to make it hard for a team to match. So the Knicks may wind up paying more than they really want to if he becomes a restricted free agent. So that's going to be a tough call for them. Nick Knox, I would trade Knox, just give him an opportunity. I like him. I would like to see him in the rotation. Maybe if the Knicks make a huge trade and have to give up a lot of players, maybe he does move into the rotation. But he doesn't seem like he's a Tibbs guy. So if they're not going to play him, if they don't see him as somebody that they're developing for the future, then I think they should just let Knox go. Just trade him. I saw a trade Knox to Orlando for Ross. I know some would like that. I don't know if we could get him straight up for Knox, but let's see. Just trade him and give him an opportunity. And Frank, Frank, the same. Frank, the same. I see a role for Frank on this team. I saw a role for Frank in the playoffs against Atlanta. I thought he could have played 10, 12 minutes, a game just to kind of change up the look on Trae Young. He didn't get that opportunity. He didn't get a lot of opportunities throughout the season. I don't think he's a Tibbs guy. I don't see him going into the rotation. I'm not sure what the issue is. So I think that we should just dump Frank. I'm saying it dump like real light because I don't want Andy to get, offended. But it's not, not that we can't use him. It's just that we haven't. We haven't. So just let him go. Give him an opportunity on another team. All right. I think that is everybody. Let me just check in with the chat. Knicks Worldwide, appreciate you. If Mitch's salary demands are too high, trade him to the highest bidder. Centers are the easiest and cheapest position to fill. That may be true, but what about rim protecting centers? And what about centers who can defend a pick and roll, right? And I think that's what it is with Mitch, because there's sometimes if you just look at his stats, because I did that, I'm like, he's not even averaging 10 points. He's not even averaging 10 rebounds, just one block a game. Yeah, I don't know. I think we can get that anywhere. But his pick and roll defense, we need that. We need that. So we're going to talk, when we get to the free agents about other centers we can look at. But I'm interested in their pick and roll defense. Yes, they can block shots and they can rebound. How is their post defense and how is their pick and roll defense? That's important. Andy, Steph, I'm here. Don't hurt me. Hashtag Frankie. I know, brother. I know. And then somebody else said, Jay apparently doesn't agree with Knicks Worldwide, said Mitch is untouchable, right? So one fan in the chat who thinks that centers are easily replaced, and another one who said Mitch is untouchable. Severink said not elite centers. Well, I don't know if Mitch is elite just yet. But he could be on his way. The thing about Mitch is, in my opinion, he's raw. As much as his improvement this season has been his ability to stay on the floor. Like that's what we're talking about. Like, wow, Mitch is staying on the floor. Not he's scoring more. He got a little short jump shot. He's doing this. He's staying on the floor. So baby steps for him. He's still raw. The question is, can he, on a playoff team that wants to make a deep run, can you count on Mitch to man that center spot and be consistent? That's the question. I think the jury is out, in my opinion. Hulk, we need a center that can make a shot. Mitch can't shoot. Miles could block and shoot. I like Miles Turner. He may be available in trades. We'll see. They have a new coach. We'll see. We'll talk more about Miles later. But also, what about his pick and roll defense? Right? That's important as well. All right. that's the end of those are my takes on the current roster. I hope I didn't leave anybody out. So you guys, if you have any thoughts on that, you can put them in the chat. I'll continue to look at them as we move on. All right. Possible free agents. So let me just preface this that, before we even get into particular players, let me just say the Knicks have to ask themselves, what is their timetable to possibly win a championship? Like, what is their window? That's the question I think the front office has to answer, because that's going to let them know who they should target and who they should probably not target, right? If you can't answer that question, you're just out there picking up players that you think is going to make your team better. But if you're saying to yourself, we want to win a championship in 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, then you got to be very intentional about the players that you bring in. In my opinion, the Knicks should be targeting Randall's window. And Randall's window, I think he's 26, 27. I would say his window is six or 7 years, right? So they have to start thinking, in my opinion, is Randall a number one? Is Randall a number two? If Randall is a number two, we need to bring in a number one, or we need to bring in a number two, because I think you can get it done with 2 number twos. We need to bring in a number one or a number two to pair with Randall, and they have to be within that window, right? So that's the issue that I'm having when people are saying, we got Obi, we got IQ, we got RJ, we got Mitch. This is our core. I disagree. They could be your core. And if the Knicks are saying that our window is based on these young players, then you got a long window. Maybe your window is 6 to 10 years, right? But when you do that, you're hoping one of those players pop and become an all-star or become a all NBA player that you can now build a team around. You're hoping. But we got that right now in Randall, right? We got that right now in Randall. And my opinion, if Obi, IQ, RJ become a number one or number two, it's going to take them some time to get there. And when they get there, Randall's window could be closing, right? So that's why I think that you got to go with a more sure thing, which in my opinion is Randall, though he did struggle in the playoffs. He's given me just a little bit of pause, but I still think he's a good player, and I still think he's good enough to be a number two, or at least a number three, but I think a number two on a championship contending team, right? So if that is your window, then you need to target free agents that are good players right now. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to develop and continue to refine their game, but right now you know what their floor is. We know what Randall's floor is. We may not know what his ceiling is, but we know what his floor is, right? So if you're saying we're trying to win a championship within Randall's window, you got to bring in players, that can play in this league. We don't know if Obi can play in this league at that level just yet. We don't know if IQ can play at that level consistently just yet. Even RJ, we don't know that yet. But when you look at Philly, you know what you're getting for Simmons, and you know what you're getting from Embiid every night. Now, they may improve their games, but you know what their floor is. Same thing with Tatum and Brown in Boston. You know what their floor is. We have Randall. That's it, as far as knowing where the floor is. And if you're trying to build around him, you have to go after free agents that can complement him, right? So I just want to preface that, because as I go through the free agents, and we may not get through all of them, but I'm targeting players that could be a number one or a number two. Or if the Knicks can't find a number one or a number two this season, don't force it. If they can't find one, that's fine. But we need to sign players that move the needles. that move the needle. And I just don't think signing young players move the needle. I mean, they may make us a better team, but I just don't think that they're at that point where they can really help us make this deep playoff run. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll go through some of them. Knicks Worldwide says achieve sustainable winning and swing for 2022. By then we know what Randall. I'm okay with that. Because again, that's still within Randall's window. Because you have to think about it. When you put a team together, very rarely in 1 year, as soon as you put that team together, do they win a championship. I think the Lakers did it. I believe the Lakers did it. But usually that team, maybe it takes 2-3 years, if they're ready, if they're championship contenders, maybe 2-3 years to get there. If you're dealing with a 6 or 7 year window, fine. If you don't want to start that till next year, add some pieces this year, then swing for the fences, that's fine. But if you're waiting for an Obi or an IQ, you're talking about 3-4 years, perhaps, in terms of being somebody you can count on. All right, let's get into the players. So, like I said, when I'm looking at these free agents, I'm asking myself, are they in Randall's window? Can they be a number one or a number two? And if not, at least can they move the needle, make us a better team next year? And then, as I think it was Knicks Worldwide said, you could swing for the fences the next year. I'm not for the Knicks just going out and just, we need a number one or we need a number two and just really be reckless with it. And I don't think they will. I think they're very intentional. If they don't get who they want, I think they'll move on and just push it back to the next season. I believe that. All right. First one up, and we talked about him the last week, is Dame. Dame is 31 years old. Dame, in my opinion, is built for New York. The lights will not be too big for him. You don't have to worry about him sweltering and fading, I don't think. I think he would do very well here. Statistically, let's see. Dame averaged, so he's 30 years old, he's 6'2". He averaged 34.3 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 10.2 assists, right? So he does pass the ball, shot 46% from the field, 94% from the free throw line. That means he's somebody that can get to the line, and when he gets to the line, he can hit the shot. And from the three-point line, he shot 44.9%, and he has infinite range, right? So the only concern I have about Dame, it's not even his salary. The concern I have about Dame is by next season, I believe he's going to be 31, right? And so what that does is that shrinks your window in terms of winning a championship. You figure maybe 4 or 5 years because you want to take advantage of the time that you have a player like this and try to win one, right? But if he's 31, you're talking about maybe 4 or 5 years, right? So now you have to scorch earth, so to speak, to try to put a team around him really quickly that can win because the window is so small. That's what's going on in Brooklyn. That's what happened when the Lakers signed. Wow, can't believe his name is escaping me. But anyway, he was old. Nobody thought that he would play, LeBron James. Nobody thought that he would play this late into his career, right? They thought their window was really short. And they accepted that, and they worked really fast to put a team around them, which is why they pretty much gave away a lot of their players so that they could bring in AD because they knew their window was short. And I think that's my concern with bringing in Dame is that, the window is small, and we got to try to do a lot and a little bit of time. That being said, if the Knicks choose to go in that direction, I'm all for it. Because this guy, I mean, you've seen him play. This guy is for real. Some will argue, and I hear this a lot. I'm one, like, people talk about, homegrown and homemade championships and kind of turn their nose up to what Brooklyn is doing and to what the Lakers is doing. I don't. Get a chip, you get a chip. There's many ways to do it, right? You don't have to just, you don't have to develop your draft picks, to become all-stars in order to win a championship. And I think the other thing that people have a problem with is trading away your young players to accelerate the process. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that either. And some people are concerned about, wow, if you're going to give away your assets, you are taking a chance. Don't get me wrong, because you may not get it. But then the salary cap is going to be, in a bad place for, I don't know, another 3-4. I don't care. If we get a championship and then the Knicks fall off and trail off and they're not good for another 4, 5, 6, 7 years, I'm good. I prefer that than to have a team in the second round of the playoffs for 7 years straight and with nothing to show for it. That's just me. I know we all have our different opinions as far as that's concerned. Building Roots in the chat said, getting Dame is still not getting us to the Eastern Conference Final. We are going to go broke bringing him to New York City. Well, I don't think, obviously there's other work that needs to be done. I don't think you could just, I don't know. I was about to say, I don't know if you could just add Dame to this team and get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but maybe you might. I mean, he's just that dynamic. But listen, the Knicks would have to put a team around him, right? You would have to, you would still have to upgrade the roster, whether you bring Dame in or not. I think that had Randall showed better in the playoffs, then you could say, wow, Dame and Randall, that's pretty good. But because he didn't, it's really that the fact that we don't know what we're going to get from Randall going forward. I have no concerns about Dame, and it's up to the front office to put a team around him. Dame costs too much, not trading my team for one player. Y'all may not see it, but Toppin could potentially be better than Randall. He very well may. Again, like I said at the beginning, we're talking about timeline. He may become better than Randall in 7 years, but the Knicks window starts now, right? Or starts, if you want to say it starts next year or whatever, this is the Knicks window. So nobody is saying that Obi's not going to be good, Quickly's not going to be good. None of those guys, RJ. The question is to the chat, do you think any of those guys are going to become a number one or a number two during Randall's window? That's my question for the chat, right? That's my question. Not ever will they become that during Randall's window. All right, let's move on real quick. Lonzo Ball is a restricted free agent. He's 23 years old, 6'6". I love his size. 14.6 points a game, 4.8 rebounds, 5.7 assists, even playing off the ball. Remember, if you're familiar with New Orleans, they played they ran their offense through Zion, and he still averaged 5.7 assists. 41.4% field goal percentage is a problem, right? 78.1% is great for him. I think prior to that, he was shooting like 50%, and his three-point percentage is 37.8. Listen, I like Lonzo Ball. I like him. I know there's some people that don't like his game. Some people had concerns that two coaches took him off the ball, right? So maybe they also had concerns about his ability to lead a team, run a team. And listen, that's a legitimate concern. My issue with Ball is that is he in the time? Is he in Randall's timeline. That's it. You know, will he become a point guard that could lead a team deep into the playoffs, be a starter on a team that becomes a championship contender? I'm not saying next year, 2 years. Let's say 3 years from now. Can he be that? Right? Maybe he can. You know, maybe he can. I would like to have a more experienced person at the point guard. Doesn't have to be a grizzly veteran in their 30s, but, you know, somebody who's kind of been around a little bit, led a team a little bit, ready to lead a team, and has a little more experience. Again, that's my only issue with Lonzo. It's just experience and how long it's going to take him to get to that point where he can lead a team deep into the playoffs. Who's Mark? Appreciate you, Mark. He said he goes in and out of games. And I take that he's talking about his performance, you know, like I take it, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're saying that, you know, he shows up sometimes, maybe in the first half, not so much in the second half. And Anthony D, shout out, Anthony. He said, yes, Ball can. So he believes at 23 years old, if we're going to make a deep playoff run in the next 2, 3, 4 years, he believes that Ball can be a point guard of a team and lead them deep into the playoffs. Okay. All right. And that's why we do this, right? Everybody has different opinion and it's fine. Knicks Worldwide, just go back up. He said, target Lowry and draft the point guard as his understudy. Okay. Somebody else said, go get Jalen Brunson. I like Brunson. If you haven't already, Legion of Knicks, Gmo did a video breaking down Brunson's game and how he would fit with the Knicks, just the pros and cons. Very well done. So if you get an opportunity, Legion of Knicks podcast, check out the video on Brunson. All right. I'm just going to do a few more. I have a lot. I'm not going to do all of them. Do a few more. Chris Paul has a player option, so he can opt out of his contract. He's 36 years old, 6 feet tall, 16.4 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists, 44.4% field goal percentage, 83.3% free throw percentage, 40 free throw percentage, and 40% from the 3-point line. Listen, I like Chris Paul. I have issues with his age. I have issues with his injury history. When he had that shoulder injury, I was like, here we go again. Like the Clippers seemed like they couldn't get over the hump because he always got injured. But he seems to be playing through that pretty well. I think when you get to like 36, 37, it's another issue I have with Lowry, who I love and I would like to see with the Knicks, is doesn't seem to be a steady decline for some of these players. For some of these players, one season they look great, and the next season their game just falls off a cliff. And I think at some point that may happen with Chris Paul. He's asking for a 3-year contract. He's going to be 39. He's going to be 39. Will he see the end of that contract, or will we just be giving out money for someone who's injured and can't really play and not really matching the production of their contract? That's the only issue I have with Chris Paul. But if Knicks decide to roll the dice, and it would be a rolling of the dice, I would be okay with it. Though I don't see any reason why he wouldn't resign with Phoenix. Rose JN, appreciate you. All the Knicks need to do is make it back to the playoffs next season. Make it back to the playoffs next season, and Karl Anthony Towns will be coming in 2022. Book it. Okay. I have my own issues about Karl Anthony Towns, but okay. All right. Pudge Nice. CP3 never won anything and can't play defense. Come on. Well, let's see. He's on his way. He's on his way this year. All right. I'm going to talk. just about one other player in depth, and then the other ones, I'll just say, a sentence or two. I just want to talk a little bit about Lowry. He's 35 years old, 6 feet tall, 17.2 points a game, 5.4 rebounds, 7.3 assists, 43.6 from field goal percentage, which is not great. 87.5% free throw percentage, 39.6% three-point percentage. Now, people say he fell off a little bit, and I was looking at his season averages, and it's actually better in pretty much every category, either better or even. But for whatever reason, the team just didn't do well. And I get it. When you look at the eye test, he just didn't seem to be the same player, but statistically, he was. I'm hoping if the Knicks do sign him, I think he's asking if this still holds. I think he was asking, he wanted $25 million. At least that was the rumor per season. That's a lot. That's a lot. I think Lowry has maybe 2 seasons left, 3 seasons, and again, like Chris Paul, he could decline overnight as well because of his age. But I would take a chance on Lowry. I just love his game. I love his grit. I love his tenacity. I think he would be a Garden favorite. Just the way he plays the game is just reminiscent of a Knick player. But when you sign these older guys, you have to know that there is risk that they may not be able to fulfill their contract. But I don't know him to be an injury-prone player. So I would take that risk, and I would hope that he could do for us what Chris Paul did for Phoenix. I mean, look at Phoenix right now; he just makes players better, and I think Lowry would be able to do that for us. And just briefly, I'm not going to go into Kemba Walker's stat line. If you want it, or John Wall, both of those players. I like John Wall more than I like Kemba Walker, but both of them, you would need to trade for them to get them. And both of them are injury prone. And I would prefer not to sign an injury prone player. I don't even know which one is more injury prone. I should have actually put games played up here. Wall missed a bunch of games. Kemba Walker missed a bunch of games. The other concern I have about Kemba, whether or not he could play within the system. When he was in Charlotte, he could shoot whenever he wanted to, right? In Boston, he had to play within the system. There were 2 other players. He would have to do that here with us. I'm not sure that's his thing. So I would hard pass on both John Wall and Kemba. Schroder, I'm neutral. I'm neutral about Schroder. He does fit Randall's timeline at 27 years old. He's playing okay for the Lakers now, but Magic Johnson called him out in that first series. I don't know what he was expecting. I mean, you don't have AD. Are you expecting Schroder to step up and fill that shoe? Probably not. But I guess they expected him to play better, and he did not. I think he's a complimentary player. I don't think he's somebody that's going to come in and be a number 1 option. But at this point, given our point guard situation, he would definitely be the upgrade. He would move the needle some. Is he somebody that can be a point guard on a championship contending team or team going deep into the playoffs? I think he would need to grow into that position. But what I like about him overall is that he's been in the league longer. He's seen more. He's been in the playoffs. So he has some experience. And so that would give him the edge, in my opinion. Another one that we're not going to be able to get to, I like Dinwiddie. I like Dinwiddie. I know he's coming off an injury. If we can get him on the cheap, I would love to have him. I don't think the lights would be too bright for him either. Knicks worldwide, Schroder is the backup option. This ain't new with Dennis. This is who's Mark. I'll give him a 1-year deal. I don't know if the Knicks going to get, good players to come here on 1 year deals. Maybe role players, but Schroder turned down 4 years, $80 million, I believe it was. I don't think he's coming on a 1 year, on a 1 year deal. All right. And Kendrick Nunn for me is just a no-go. I think if he's more of a scorer, if you think Obi and IQ, like that's who you think is the Knicks core, then fine, you could bring in Nunn. But if you think Randall is the guy to build around, I think Nunn is too young. He doesn't have a lot of experience playing that position. He's not a favorite of mine at all. That being said, somebody brought up a good point. I think it was Gmo that Lowry was a bench, came off the bench at some point, when we were talking about Brunson. And then he moved into the starting role and did well. So it is, it can happen. It's just about whether or not the front office, wants to sign somebody who has experience or wants to go under the radar and take somebody who's been in a good play and a backup role and give them that opportunity. They might. White Falcon 44, Randall getting traded for PG-13. I like Paul George game, but you got to show up. you have to show up. So his playoff record is not that great either. So I wouldn't be falling over myself to make that that trade. Let's go to the forwards again. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm gonna go through them really quickly. I like Oubre, 15.4 points, 4.5 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 43.9% field goal percentage, which is not great. 69.5 three-point percentage, which is not great. 31.6% from the three-point line, which is also not great. He's somebody who, when he's on, he's on. When he's not, he's not. He's inconsistent. But he's 25 years old. Now, maybe the Knicks want to take a chance on playing him opposite of RJ. Maybe they think they can get more out of him than he's shown thus far. I know he had a very good season when he was in Washington, another very good season when he was in Phoenix. This is a new Golden State, a new situation for him. But he's another one that's not a finished product. I think he does move the needle for us. I don't think he's a number one or a number two option besides Randall, at least not yet. But I do think he moves the needle some. Again, 25. So this is another player like RJ who's coming into their own. And I just think the Knicks need somebody who has grown into their own already to pair with Randall. Kawhi has a player option. He can opt out of his contract. We all know him, 25 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 58.2% from the field. Like, wow. His mid-range game, his ability to get to the basket, 89.5% free throw percentage, 41. I mean, if we can get Kawhi, but listen, I think he will opt out. I don't think he's going to opt out and come to the Knicks. If he does, that would be great. He's another one. He's going to be 30, I think, by the time the season starts again. That's I don't know. I figure you're in your prime till 34 maybe, and that might even be stretching it. So, if we sign him also, that does shorten our window to get a championship, and we would have to move quickly to get players to build a team that could compete. Will Barton, I'm not going to get into his stats. He has a player option. If you're not familiar with him, he's a small forward that plays for Denver. He's been out. I think he only played 56 games this season. I like him because he's a two-way player. But again, injury concerns. All of these players have been linked to the Knicks at some point or another. But the injury concerns, and his injuries is not even like a knee, it's like a turf toe, and he's out for like 35 games. Some weird injuries, and he's out for a very long time. So if the Knicks can get him on the cheap, maybe have an incentive-laden contract, that would be good. Other than that, I would really like to stay away from injury-prone players. DeRozan, somebody in the chat, building roots, DeRozan is DeNozan. So I take it that you don't like him. 31 years old, 6'6". That says 31.6. It's 21.6 points per game. 4.2 rebounds, 7 assists. Wow. 50% from the field, 88% from the free throw line. Not a good three-point shooter at all. And I don't even think he takes a lot. He's 31. DeRozan, I'm not going to say that I look at his game and I'm excited about it, but he moves the needle. He moves the needle. The Knicks, if they sign him, the Knicks are a better team. He's an upgrade over Bullock, right? And you could argue that, maybe he's a number 2 along with Randall. But again, you have to build a team around him and Randall. He's 31 years old. He's not going to be there that long. And the other player who didn't make it into the slide, I thought about late, is Carmelo Anthony. Again, he's not a number 1. He's not a number 2. But I think he would really help us off the bench. And I want to say he would be an upgrade over Bullock. But Carmelo, his defense is decent. It's not as bad as people say it is. But he's not a two-way player. So maybe as a replacement for Burke, I would love to have Carmelo back on this team playing backup 3 and backup 4. Can you imagine if Randall was backing up, if Carmelo was backing up Randall over Obi in the playoffs? Then he might have wound up playing more minutes than Randall. I mean, if he was playing, if he was playing well. So I would like to see Carmelo back. Rose and Melo in New York. Does he still have it? He still has it. He still has it. And I believe he's 37. You watch him play with Portland. It's amazing how he's still quick in terms of being able to get to his spots. He's still able to get his shot off. It's just amazing. It's just amazing just how he's been able to keep his body, in shape and play at this level. So, yeah, I do think he would be able to contribute. Now, like I said before, is it possible between this season and next season his game falls off a cliff, so to speak? It's possible, but I don't think so. I think if he was here, he would contribute, and I think New York fans would be happy with his contribution. Janine, no Melo. Let's go forward. Janine, I would love to have you on the show. Melo plays the 4 now, not the 3. He's too slow to play the 3. I agree. Melo and Rose for the low. To start or bench? I guess he's saying, would I start them or would I have them both coming off the bench? I would have them both coming off the bench. Charles Turner III said Melo would give Tibbs fits. That was one of the things also when I was thinking about Dame and thinking about some of these free agents. With Dame and Tibbs fit, I mean, Tibbs seems to be more of a coach for like younger players. I don't know if older, more seasoned players, how they would take to Tibbs. We will see. Nothing but Nick Sim. If Chris Paul or Damian Lillard end up in New York, Melo is coming along. And let me tell you something. I wouldn't mind having him. You gotta watch him. If you got NBA League Pass, I think you could go back and watch, old games. Watch Portland and just focus on Melo. He could still get to his spots. And he has a quick release. I would love to have him in New York. Severinks, He hasn't played the 3 in 5 years at a high level, but that's fine. We could play him at the 4 behind Randall. Trade Randall for Pete. Why? I mean that I don't get. Lastly, center, and we'll go through this really quick before we kind of end with some key dates. Let's pull up that slide. Dame's going to cost too much. Yeah. Miles Turner. If they trade Miles Turner, I wouldn't mind. Now, I put Kelly Olynyk here because he's been linked to the Knicks. I'm not a big Kelly Olynyk fan. I like centers who can protect the rim, and he cannot. But 13.5 points, 7 rebounds, 2.9 assists. He's one of those multifaceted centers, at least on the offensive end. 48% from the field, 82% free throw shooter. He can shoot the 3 okay at 34.2%. So if he played the center position, and I guess at 6'11", he would, he can stretch the defense. The defense would have to play him, basically. And we haven't had that, right? And that kind of opens up things for the rest of your teammates when the center on the other team has to guard your center. So in that sense, I think he would be an asset. But chat, let me know what you think. I'm not a big Kelly Olynyk fan. I'm a huge Miles Turner fan, though. Can somebody tell me in the chat if you're familiar, if he plays good pick and roll defense? But he's 25 years old. Now, he's under contract with Indiana, who just changed their coach, fired their coach after 1 year. So if we were to get him, we would have to trade for him. There's been talks that him and Sabonis they play the same position. They don't really play that well together. And if one of them had to go, it would be Turner, right? And that the Knicks do have the assets to make that happen. So let's see. I would love to have him. He's 6'11", 12.6 points. He could shoot the 3, so he's going to stretch the defense, right? 6.5 rebounds, 1 assist, 3.4 blocks, right? 47.7% field goal percentage and 78.2 from the free throw line. 33.5%, that would need to come up. But one of the things that happens in the Knicks offense, and I think why the Knicks have shot the ball more efficiently, is that they only take shots in the spots in which they can make them, and they only take them when they're open. And that increases your field goal percentage or your 3-point percentage in this case. And I think that would happen with Miles Turner. His 3-point shot would be much more disciplined. He wouldn't just be some of these games at Indiana, if you watch, he's just pulling up, like wow, that would not happen in a Tibbs run offense. So I would anticipate his 3-point percentage would increase. And again, he blocks shots, he plays defense. Clinton Sims, Mitch can't stay healthy or stay out of foul trouble. Plus, Miles Turner is an amazing defender who has some untapped shooting. Okay. All right. With building roots, with New York Knicks consider acquiring Brogdon and Turner. I like Brogdon as well. I just think the Knicks still need somebody. Like if you had Brogdon, RJ, Randall, Turner, you still whoever's that 3 better be somebody really dynamic. Kelly Olynyk is a fabulous shooter and has style. Shout out to you, Hulk. Yeah, I agree. Joe D. MacGyver, I hope the front office is smart because Tibbs won a team full of old players and he will run them, and then he will run them into the ground. Listen, you got to be able to play minutes. I mean, that's just what it is. Hopefully we'll get a good bench and Randall's minutes can come down. RJ's minutes can come down. hopefully we'll see something different next season as far as that's concerned. RJ Drummond, right? He's a lightning rod. You either like him or you don't. He's only 27. It's like he's been in the league forever, like 9 seasons or something like that. He's 27 years old, 6'10", 14.9 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, 49.3% field goal percentage. Not a very good free throw shooter at 60%. Doesn't shoot the 3-point shot. I've seen him shoot it once or twice, but that's not really part of his repertoire. So he's not going to stretch the defense in that respect. What do you guys think about Drummond? I could take him or leave him. I could see, if the Knicks don't sign him, I'm okay with that. If the Knicks do sign him, I'm okay with that. This is somebody who has the curve. You're going to be able to throw the ball down in the post. We haven't had that in a long time. He's going to be able to rebound the ball. Rebounding was a problem for us. He's not a big rim protector, but he averaged one block a game. You wonder, the fit with Randall. Will Randall have enough space to operate? If I'm not mistaken, I think Sim went through a video on that when Drummond was about to be bought out, and people had concerns about that. And I think we talked about it. And I think there was a video, not a video. We talked about how they would be able to work together if he did come. I think Drummond would help us. Does he move the needle? I do think he moves the needle. I do think he moves the needle. Is he a number 1 or a number 2? He's not. In my opinion, he's not. And I think the Knicks would still have more work to do. I'm going to read a few more comments from the chat before we end. Brooklyn Blanco, shout out to you. Josh, Tibbs only played Randall 40 minutes because we had no one else. With more elite players, those minutes will go down. I agree. Andy N, shout out to you. Steph, you should give us the contract you cool with. That's a good, yeah. I might take Drummond for a vet's minimum or like a max till $3.5 million. What does that mean, a max till 3.5? A max. I take it you mean a max. Drummond is going to command more than that. Of course, for a vet's minimum, I'll take anybody. I'll take a living. For a vet's minimum, I think we're going to have to pay Drummond more than 3.5 million for sure. And I think he's worth more than that as well. Brooklyn Blanco, I don't want Drummond. Dre wasn't the move. Glad we ain't jump. The last thing I want to say, about free agency is sometimes a player may not look that great on another team and come to your team and just really do well because of the system, or a player doesn't do well on our team. We can't wait to get rid of them. And then they go to another team and they flourish. These guys are in the NBA. They're all good players. Fit is important. Getting the requisite amount of minutes so that you can show what you can do, that's important. So a lot of these guys that we're not too high on, you got to remember, Tibbs' system is very structured in a way. And I really think that there are some guys who will reach their potential under Tibbs. I wonder if that would be Oubre, who's been inconsistent. He's 25 years old, right? I don't think he's hit his ceiling. I'm not going to say I'm very high on him because of his his poor shooting, including poor free throw shooting. But maybe he comes here and under Tibbs flourishes and does very well, right? So, we have to see. One of the things I'm confident in is that the Knicks will be intentional and that they won't be reckless. Knicks worldwide, yes, agreed, Steph. Look at Bobby Portis. Exactly. Building roots. No team has cap room to pay Drummond more than the room exception. He's going to stay in LA. Okay. Kawhi's not leaving. He may not. Point guard is our number 1 issue. get Lonzo. I told you my issue with Lonzo. I'm not quite sure he's ready, but maybe he is. Maybe he is. All right. We're just going to end with some key dates for us to just be aware of. The draft combine, June 21st to the 27th. And they usually televise that. So if you're really into it, I believe NBA TV usually televises that. June 22nd is the draft lottery. And for the first time and forever, the Knicks will not be in the draft lottery unless they trade up into the lottery. July 29th is the actual draft. The Knicks pick number 19, 21, and in the second round, 32 and 59, 59th pick. August 2nd, you can start negotiating with free agents, and August 6th, you can sign free agents. The Summer League is August 18th through 17th. Training camp starts September 28th, and the season begins October 19th. It's a very compressed off season, which is great for us, right? We get an opportunity to just, run it back again really quick. Thank you all. I appreciate you spending your time here. For those who are listening to it later, appreciate you as well. I'll be back next week. We're going to follow this all the way through every week, the Queen's Court, talking about Knick news, free agency signings, as we build this team for another playoff run. And my hope is that, we push our chips to the middle of the table and we having that parade in the next 4 years. I say 4 years. All right? Peace. Spread love. See you next week.